So hi all again. Thanks very much for coming. So either I or you have drawn the short straw, and I'm going to do the presentation. It'll be a bit of a whistle stop through it. Hopefully you'll be able to see the shared slides. I have put them into the chat function an attachment as well, just in case you can't. Okay. So I'm just going to open this now, and hopefully it'll work. Right. So can maybe Ella or Joan tell me whether they can see that? Okay, thumbs up. So we're good to go. So again, welcome along. Thanks for your interest in the program. So again, as Ian was saying, so I'm Daniel Blackshiz. I'm one of the co-directors of the program along with Ella there, who you can see. So Applied Economics CK 2101, whistle stop through what this is. I suppose our label that we've used for a while here with this is it's an economics degree with a difference, which sounds all very kind of trite and stuff like that. But we think it actually does mean something. And, I suppose what we want to try and explore over the next few minutes with you and then through your questions is what that difference might be. So it's a 4-year degree, which in itself, there's nothing particularly different about that. There's a lot of degrees here will be obviously a 4-year degree. It combines, surprise, surprise, the study and application of economics. That application bit is critical. This is very much about trying to be as practical as possible with your learning and your exploration of economics, so as that when you leave the university in 4 years' time, you can use it in a variety of settings. So it's not what's called inert knowledge or just technical knowledge or theoretical knowledge. It's the application of that. I suppose the critical difference is we take very seriously, and it is built explicitly into the program, that's what we call your scholarly development or your academic development in economics is embedded with your own personal and professional development. And the reasoning being, again, for that is the vast majority of people who come to university, who do an undergraduate program, irrespective of what that program is, are, at least in part, concerned that what they're doing over 3 or 4 years in the university will lead to them adding value in terms of their employability. And that's about your professional development. If you're going to use your academic knowledge, your scholarly knowledge, it's going to be in a professional setting. And so therefore you have to understand what that means as well, so that you can combine the two. And ultimately, in a world that is uncertain, where there's a lot of change, yourselves from AI, for instance, the changes that are leading to the world of education, we have to be able to deal with that uncertainty. And it's about understanding your own values, your own beliefs, your own goals, your own kind of hopes and aspirations, which is part of your personal development. And we tried to combine that in terms of your academic work with an opportunity to go on work placement as well, where you can explore and develop that knowledge, which Jake is, and Jake will talk about that in a minute at the moment, or study abroad indeed. When we talk about economics, we use a very kind of common sense definition, and that common sense definition is well over 100 years old now. It's from a very famous economist called Alfred Marshall. You can blame him for all the graphs that you have to learn in Leaving Cert for those that are doing economics now, because he's one of the originators of graphs in economics. And he said that, look, economics is the study of mankind in the ordinary business of life. And ultimately, from the cradle to the grave, really, there is some element of the decisions that we make that have an economic element to it. And you think about that from what we call a micro perspective, which would be an individual decision making, such as, you were here today at 5 o'clock. I'm sure there are other things that you could be doing. And as you know, we call that, the opportunity cost, the alternatives that are foregone. Any individual, any organization has those decisions to make and has to think about what they're filtering into their choice and the consequences of that. And again, if you've done economics before, we talk about intended consequences, what we intended our choice to do, and also unintended consequences. So the things that we didn't expect. And whether you're an individual or an organization or a region like Munster or a country like Ireland or beyond that, the European Union, the UN, etc., we are all making decisions that have an economic implication, public sector and private sector. And we're feeding into some of the really big bang issues that we are embedded in today. Obviously, one that we've all come through over a few years ago, COVID, and the impact that has on individuals and how we work and what's the best way to work, and also in the public sector, to what's happening presently in terms of the kind of geopolitical issues that are going on. And of course, the current president of the United States, putting tariffs on other countries and the impact that that might have. So really from the cradle to the grave, we feel economics explores this. Now, what does that mean for somebody who's studying economics? It means that there's no one path that you can take. The vast majority of people who study economics do not become economists, but they are people that are valued in the marketplace because of the type of competencies that studying economics and the kind of knowledge and awareness of what's going on in the world around you, what that can give an organization who hires somebody who has an economic expertise. And that's something we'll come back to afterwards when we look at the job prospects for people. I said it's an economics degree with a difference, and the critical difference is if you look at, say, what the World Economic Forum here says are some of the key critical kind of skills they call, or what we call competencies for your ability to effectively work in the world today. And if I highlight a box here, none of them are economic specific. None of them are discipline specific. They're not business, they're not management, they're not marketing. They are what we call generic attributes: problem solving, self-management, working with people, technological use and development. We take that serious. What we do in this program, and it's because of our constrained numbers we can do that, is we integrate that economics we're talking about, the theories, concepts, frameworks, and data collection techniques and analysis, your academics, in other words, with your professional development. What does it mean to collaborate professionally? What does it mean to communicate professionally? What does it mean to self-manage? What does that mean? How can I use what I've been studying in economics over 3 or 4 years to enhance not just my academic, but my professional and personal development to make me more attractive as I leave to go into the marketplace of work? So what's our overall aim? Yes, of course, we want you to learn economics, be able to use economics, to understand the purpose of economics, but crucially is to be able to use that economics to be able to question, to analyze, to research problems, issues, and opportunities, yes, in business, yes, in finance, but also government and the non-profit sector. Economics, yes, we're housed in the business school, but economics is a social science. It goes well beyond just business. Again, you look at the decisions that government have to make, all have an economic element to it. We want you to be able to think critically, yes, have an analytical ability, but also creatively. What is the role that somebody with economics knowledge has in terms of exploring new ideas, innovative ideas, creative ideas? We want you to be able to communicate to others orally and in writing, and to be able to work independently and collaboratively, all critical graduate attributes for the world of work. And crucially, in terms of your personal development, if there's any truth to the idea that you will have more than one career in your life, not to mind job, but more than one career, how can you plan? How can you create a life design for yourself? And can we support that? And can you see where economics has a role in that development of your own life plan? So there are aspirations for our graduates. How we try to do it is through an environment that we think has what we call high challenge and high support. We focus in on your scholarly development, your academic development, yes, through economic theories and concepts, ideas and issues, which again, those of you who are studying economics in the Leaving Cert will be familiar with some of those ideas, but also research methods, how we use data collection techniques and analysis techniques to apply that theory in a whole load of different settings. We also have what you see there is another discipline. We're very much about the idea that economics alone can't solve the problems of the world. It's integrated with other disciplines. And so what Ella and myself in terms of and the team in terms of designing this program have tried to do in the first year is invite students to study another discipline within the broad suite of arts subjects so as they can start to create their own portfolio and see how economics links with other subjects or disciplines, and I'll come back to that in a second. And then, as I said, we very, very purposely develop your professional competencies. We center that around communication, collaboration, and problem solving and project management, which are all critical attributes that organizations look for today in young graduates. And then, as I said, your personal development as well. Your ability to be able to reflect, to goal set, and to design a kind of your professional life for yourself. And we work that throughout the 4 years of the program. So it's not just we just do it in 1 year. We do all three across all 4 years of the program. How that breaks down is in first year, I said, if we look at economics, so you do in a university, you do something called 60 credits, right, in 1 year. 45 of those credits are economics in first year, 15 credits are another subject. So you see the suite of other possibilities that you have here: geography, maths, history, computer science, archaeology, etc. That can evolve depending on the suite that arts kind of give us any 1 year. But what we want to try and do is try that everybody has the opportunity to explore with economics something else that they might be interested in, that they want to develop a competency in. So you do that along with 45 credits of economics. We start from scratch. We do not assume that you have economics done from the Leaving Cert, and it's literally working up your understanding of microeconomics, so that's the economics of the individual and the firm and organizations; macroeconomics, which is the bigger bang issues, the government, interest rates, inflation, things like that. And also kind of we start on economic techniques, and we start on getting you exploring how to critically think with economics and how other critical thinkers, economists, have explored issues. We also then start on your professional and personal development as well through a module called Transition for Professional Life. In second year, we move to exclusively economics. So that will be 60 credits of economics, 10 credits of which are Transition to Professional Life, where we're moving on from what you've explored in first year, and we're developing it in more detail, getting a bit more sophisticated in our understanding of issues in micro and macroeconomics, getting a bit more sophisticated in our understanding of research techniques and methodologies, and how to communicate to a wide audience. In the Transition to Professional Life, which is what I've just come from there for all afternoon, is we get students now working on a problem for organizations. So using their economics and their collaboration skills and their communication skills and their research skills to present outside of academia, right? What we call town. So gown and town. So that's really what second year is about. Third year then is where the students get the opportunity to start shaping their own development. You have two broad options. You can either study at a university abroad for a year, right, which again about half of our current cohort do, or you go on a 6-month work placement from January to June. It's always January to June. For the first half of the year, you have 30 credits of economics with us here, and you go into placement, right, in companies. This year, about half of our class have gone on work placement. The vast majority of them have gone into organizations in Cork, some in Dublin, and we have one in Berlin. So there's a lot of choice there. And we have a work placement officer that works with us on this. If you go on the work placement option, but you don't get a placement, you do a research project. We have placed everybody this year. We anticipate placing everybody every year. Okay. And then in fourth year, it's back into UCC again. Focus on 60 credits of economics. Focus on really honing down into areas of specialism. It might be in sustainability. It might be in the area of financial economics. It might be in the area of human resource economics. It might be touching on areas such as sports economics. So again, it's quite a broad church. You also focus in on doing a dissertation, which is a broad or longer piece of independent research that you will do, right, which allows you to develop your voice in economics in an area that you're interested in. We also get you ready for the world of work and interviews and being shortlisted and all of that. And I work heavily with you on that in the final year. So that's the kind of broad sweep of the 4 years. Critically through all this, because again, we want it to be as authentic and education as possible in terms of your employability, is we have wide university industry collaborations, not just through the work placement, which Jake is on, and as I said, Jake will talk about, but also through what we do in second year and beyond, where we have organizations working with students. So they get to see how what they're studying is relevant. It's relevant to them, it's relevant to their careers. So we've kind of worked on that throughout the years, and we've been very fortunate to have a number of very important collaborators from the business world, some of which you can see there. In terms of to date, both in terms of work placement, but also internships, which students can do in kind of the summer of second year and third year, or indeed afterwards. We have been very successful in terms of the employment possibilities of our students. Some will, of course, go on to do a postgraduate and then go into the marketplace, but a lot of them then also go on and they go straight into graduate programs. So you can see some of the organizations there, some you'll be very familiar with. I want to draw your attention to the careers. Yes, some become economists, but not all. Because of the analytical ability, because of the research ability, because of the kind of professional competencies we get you to explore, because somebody who's got an economics education is interested in the world around them, there are all kinds of other roles that open up for you, right? So it is a very, very broad church. We don't necessarily become economists, although, of course, we hope that some of you do, but there is a broad church of possibilities in the marketplace. Economics is something that is currently very attractive. And again, if you have even cursory look at the news lately and what the implications are of American trade policy and so forth, you can see why organizations will be very attracted to somebody who has an understanding of what this might mean for them. Other things to know before I finish. Do you need to have, as I mentioned before, do you need to have economics in the Leaving Cert? No, you don't. We can't assume that people have economics in the Leaving Cert or any other business subject, nor do you need to have honours maths. I didn't have honours maths myself. Okay, past maths is absolutely fine. The type of quantitative work that is done in economics, if you're able to navigate past maths, you'll be well able to navigate the type of work that in part we do here. It's not all quantitative, but there is obviously a heavy emphasis on some quantitative work in some of our research, but though not exclusively. Last year, the points were 466, first entry in terms of that. We know demand is so far, we've been very lucky. Demand appears to be quite high at the moment. That can fluctuate, but it was 466 last year, so you can take that as your kind of baseline. And other than that, what I say is in terms of our point of contact, we're always happy to talk to people. Myself, Daniel Blackshields, Ella, who's here, Joan, who's also here, and we have a link to a program email as well, and there's our link to the actual prospectus. So that's me. I hope that has made at least, I guess, maybe started some conversations for you.
Thanks very much, Daniel. Great presentation. We might hand over to Jake to lend the student voice to the conversation, and just to say as well, I know there's a couple of questions coming in into the Q&A and into the chat, guys. Make sure if there's a burning question that you have, make sure to ask it, and I'll hand over to Jake now.
Brilliant, thanks, Ian. So hi everyone, my name is Jake, and I'm currently a third-year student enrolled in what was formerly known as the BA Hons Economics to Transformational Learning program, which is now known as the BSc Applied Economics program. So just reiterating what Daniel said, you don't need to study economics at Leaving Cert level. I didn't study economics for my Leaving Cert. I did pass maths as well. And really reflecting on my time in this degree, I can confidently say it has been by far, it has been far more than just an academic experience. It's fundamentally shaped how I think, problem solve, and engage with the world around me. What really sets this degree apart is that it gives you the tools you need to grow, not just academically, but on a professional and a personal level. It also challenges you to think critically, solve problems creatively, and adapt to new situations. Daniel touched on it earlier. He said, the world is uncertain, and this degree certainly equips you with the tools needed to navigate a very uncertain world. The program is designed to provide a supportive environment where you are encouraged to ask questions and explore different perspectives. Two things that I really, really value about this degree. And of course, with the small class sizes, very supportive lecturers, and interactive learning experiences, you do receive very individualized attention and a strong sense of belonging, which really makes a difference when you're going about your exploration of economics as a subject, but also your own professional and personal development. We have a very important module, the transition to a professional life module, which provides students with the opportunity to develop core capacities and attributes through interactive coursework and a very supportive learning environment. Having smaller class groups as well means more opportunities for discussion, direct engagement with lecturers. When I was in your shoes in the Leaving Cert, it's something that I highly valued, because quite often when you're thinking of university, you're thinking of the big lecture halls, you're thinking hundreds of people, but thankfully with this degree, you can put your hand up, ask a question. You're encouraged to ask questions. You're encouraged to be inquisitive about not only the concepts you're being taught, but the world around you as well. And as I said, you're given the tools to do so. Obviously, the defining feature of this degree is its focus on personal and professional development, particularly through the transition to professional life. In the first transition to professional life module, we explore topics such as professional ethics, effective communication, project management, and career navigation. And then through workshops, group projects, and reflective exercises, we're encouraged to think about our personal strengths, values, and future career aspirations. Then really in second year, we drill into it. So for example, in second year, I was given the opportunity to go out and present to Deloitte on innovative strategies to engage and retain Gen Z graduates. So we were all split into teams of 4, and it enabled us to really put into practice the skills we had already learned through first year and second year. And you know, when you're going out to Deloitte, it's a huge company. It's, you know, something you kind of dream of working for, and you get to see the skills you've learned really take place in the real world. You're given a problem and you're given the deadline and you're to come up with a solution. And as well, like, you're encouraged to look at the different perspectives. Yes, it's a problem for the business, but it's also a way at looking at how Gen Z has changed compared to other generations. So it's these kind of tasks, this kind of coursework that really gets you engaged, really develops you. I know for myself, this course has certainly allowed me to become far more confident in my own abilities, develop greater adaptability and greater critical thinking. 3 very valuable aspects that are highly valued beyond academia. As mentioned before, I'm currently on my work placement. I'm into my 7th week, I think, with Alter Domus, and I can definitely say that all of the skills that we have learned or we have developed to date, from start to now, have been used, particularly collaboration, communication, and problem solving. Huge skills. And I just find that this degree certainly helps with moving from, say, the more bubble wrapped nature of academia into the professional world. In terms of modules as well, we have a lot of choice, particularly in second year and third year. So for example, this year we had multiple choices, and I chose health economics, markets, or economics and markets after the crises, and financial strategy. They were all 3 different modules, but it enabled me to tailor my learning to my own interests. So for argument's sake, health economics, I'm big into health, I'm big into fitness. So I saw this as a way to gain a better understanding of the healthcare system that operates not just in Ireland, but also in other countries. I know that some of my peers also did sports economics, which was a very popular course this year. I suppose probably start wrapping up. If there is one key takeaway from my degree, it's that economics isn't just a subject, it's a way of thinking, at least in my eyes anyway. It teaches us to analyze decision-making, assess trade-offs, and understand incentives, skills that are relevant across industries and career paths, but also within your own personal life. More importantly, this degree has reinforced the value of being open-minded, being adaptable, and strategic thinking. The best leaders, whether in finance, business, or policy, are those who can challenge their own perspectives, absorb new information, and make well-reasoned decisions in uncertain environments. Looking back, I can definitely confidently say that choosing to study the economics degree at UCC was one of the best decisions I've made. The quality of teaching, the support we received, particularly during the work placement search, was second to none. And like really the supportive nature is what makes this degree.
Thanks very much, Jake. We'll now move on to the Q&A section of the event. So if anyone does have a question, they can be asked in both the chat or the Q&A. We have a couple already, which I can hand over to yourselves, Ella and Daniel, to answer. The first is, how many hours of lectures are there a week, on average? In particular, I suppose from this group of students' perspective, is probably from the first year side of things, and then throughout the rest of the degree as well. That's the first one in.
Yeah, there's about 12 hours of lectures a week. And but they may be bunched. I mean, for some of the modules, you might have a number of hours then together. So you might maybe have 3 hours maybe together, maybe 1 week, another week, then you mightn't have any, and then the following week you might again have another 3 hours. So it can vary a little bit like that across the year. But in general, it's about 12 hours plus tutorials as well, because there are some tutorials offered as part of more the quantitative kind of modules. So where they're using computers and stuff like that. So it's roughly around 12 hours lectures, we'd say, plus maybe 1 or 2 tutorials a week.
But I'd put a caveat in that. I mean, Ella is right in terms of, look, a lot of our lectures are either 1 or 2 hours in duration. I'm just come from one there, which is a 4-hour session that I was working with the third years. But it's important that that's contact hours with us as lecturers. As a full-time student, and Jake will attest to this, because again of the nature of the work we do, there's a lot of collaborative assessment. There's a lot of what we call continuous assessment, take-home stuff. And so, like, again, each 5-credit module amounts to about 125 hours work. Okay, so you right in that's contact hours, but also independent study and working on assessment. So yeah, there might be 12 hours, roughly speaking, of contact hours with a lecture in a week. But there's a lot more goes in to that education. So there's a lot more hours that are expected from the student in terms of getting the most out of the program. That's really critical, because sometimes people think, oh, sure, it's only 12 hours a week. As Jake will attest to, and he's smiling, there's a bit more of that. And that's for any student in any program in terms of getting the most out of it. In the type of work we do, with the amount of continuous assessment we do to try and get you ready for the world of work, there's a lot more hours needed in a week than 12 hours.
Thanks very much, then. Another one that has come in is, are there any exemptions for the accountancy exams with the programme? As far as I'm aware, there aren't, or with the ACCAs either, or any of the other exemptions. So that will be a no on that one. There's a 2 that I think will be, one lends itself to what you just answered there, both of you, Dan and Ella, in relation to is the course more examination based, or is it project based in terms of assessment?
It's a mixture. We have some exams would be expected. That's especially about developing your foundational knowledge in a particular subject. But we do have a strong emphasis on continuous assessment, which is both individual and collaborative as well. It can span written material, but also presentation. So that what I'm working with the third years at the moment is a presentation that they're working on. And again, it's that diversity is what again lends itself to the kind of competencies needed for the workplace. So the only answer we can give there is it's mixed based. Does it fall out at about 50-50? It probably is a bit more skewed at the moment towards continuous assessment. That can evolve, because circumstances change. Obviously, we live in a new context with AI and all that kind of stuff. So we have to think about the integrity of our assessment. But as much as possible, there will always be a strong emphasis on diverse assessment, which is primarily speaking continuous assessment.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add to that there's kind of some modules then which would be purely continuous assessment, and then others then which would actually have a kind of a combination of continuous assessment plus end of semester examination. Yeah. Okay,
brilliant. And there's two questions here that I suppose could be asked together. One person asks, would a master's be recommended after completion of the program? And then another person asks, what's the kind of common entry level position after completion of the degree? So I suppose if you're looking at the two different angles in terms of postgrad progression or postgrad progression into employment, what's the kind of the standard view?
About half go on to do a master's. All right. And what they're doing there is they might be specializing in a certain area. So you might go on and do a master's in economics, which you'd be specializing in a particular area of economics, or you might completely skew and you might start doing we have a number of students that have done masters in finance or masters in marketing or masters in management. So about half of our cohorts to date have done that. Half go into employment. In terms of entry position, look, it's primarily speaking graduate entry, but it doesn't have to be. But again, that would be the case for all students, really. There is a heavy emphasis on graduate entry level positions, but there are other ways into organizations as well. But we will tend to work fairly closely with students on that in terms of that. But so about half go straight into the workplace, about half go in placement at the moment. That can evolve again depending on the marketplace. It's a very healthy marketplace at the moment for students that are coming out as graduates. That can evolve because the world evolves. So it's about half and half at the moment. In terms of any particular master, yeah, we'll have some people who will go on and they'll focus, as I said, in economics, but others branch off into what we call cognate areas. So areas that have they're a kind of a good bedfellows for economics, like finance, marketing, management, things like that.
Brilliant. Speaking on the employment and on that thread, there's another question in for what are the other types of places available that you can go on placement in third year?
Well, okay, we try to keep it a broad church. The only strict rule, and this is a university rule, is that it has to be paid employment. Okay. But we are very open to people not necessarily going into kind of, your standard roles in finance or something like that. Now, like Jake is in finance, he's in Autonomous, but we have another student at the moment who's in a legal office in Berlin. We are very much about encouraging people to work in the public sector as well, if those roles come up, or in community work. Because again, if there's any truth to the idea that economics is that broad branch about how people make decisions, we want to encourage that. It's a social science, so it's very much open. We have, as I said, so as Jake said, look, myself, I tend to be involved in it unless I win the lotto and I disappear. And we have a work placement officer, and we'll work really individually with a student. We'll try to find out what they're really interested in. We've started that work with the second years already. We're trying to get them to start, and then if we can identify what they're interested in, we can see if we can target that or help them to target that as they go along. So it is very wide. I mean, again, because economics is such a broad church in terms of the roles that people eventually go into with economics, we keep the work placement as broad as we possibly can, so as to we can justify most things, as having a relevance to economics. We have to sign off on it that it is relevant for the learning outcomes of the program, but we haven't come across one yet that we wouldn't be able to sign off on. So it's not like, say, I'm an accountant or I'm a dentist, right? That kind of narrows your focus in some shape or form. We try and keep it as broad as possible.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. The one that's just popped in now is that, I suppose, is going on broad church. What's the most general job that students go into once they've completed their degrees? So you mentioned kind of graduate pathways. What's the kind of if there is a single thread, there probably isn't, given it's so broad. But kind of what's the usual type of role that students find themselves in?
Finance, banking, kind of human resources management. They would be probably the key ones so far that we see. That would be, again, it depends on what a student's interests are. So Jake is kind of interested in the kind of finance area. So that's the path that he's developing. Other people, as I said, we have somebody who's interested in the legal area. And kind of that's a big kind of cognitive discipline, law and economics. And that's the path that she wants to kind of explore. So, but it's mostly, I suppose, finance / human resources.
That, and just to say from my perspective as well, just sorry, Ella, to come across you there, just from a recruitment perspective and meeting students across the age range of everyone in attendance here, one of the things that's really important to note based off of what you said, Dan, is the amount of choice that you have after you do a degree that you're interested in. The name on your degree does not determine exactly what you're going to be doing the minute you graduate. So it's important that what you undertake for study as an undergrad is something that you're passionate about and interested in. And once those two are aligned, it'll open up a world of opportunity down the line. So there's no direct answer, I would say, to that question either, because you could find yourself in any role that's of interest to you once you have the skill set. So sorry, Ella, I know if there's something
no, Ian, I absolutely agree with you on that. I think what you're saying there is perfectly correct, and I think it's important to remember too that you'll probably change your job now a number of times during your lifetime. The days of actually going into a job and staying there for the rest of your life, or I'm going into darkness here all the time, are long gone. You're going to change your job an awful lot. So I think what really within the program, the emphasis is very much on developing your skills and your competencies, and developing your attributes, for that whole world of work that you'll be going into eventually. Absolutely.
On that point as well about finding yourself in something that you actually like and enjoy. Someone has asked, is the course considered difficult? Which I always find a hard question to answer, because there's no such thing.
I would like Jake to try and answer that.
We'll hand over to Jake on the panel. Absolutely, yeah.
I'll be careful answering this one. So, to be honest, it's the biggest challenge is being organized. There's a lot of deadlines, so definitely knowing when things are due, knowing the way to the marks, just being aware of the time. It's very easy to say, oh, I'll leave this until next week. Next week will be there in a blink of an eye. So it's best to get things done when they're assigned, or even at least started. Is it hard? I would say it's probably more demanding, but it's very rewarding. I think, look, if I was to give any bit of advice, I would say you get what you put into the degree. So for me, like, I love to, maximize my own utility, kind of, push the boundaries, push the limits. So I'll work away, but definitely being organized is a big thing. That will certainly help if you do find it difficult.
We also help on that too. Thanks, Jake. We really help on that as well. I think as well in terms of helping you to organize yourself and try to train, I suppose, help students to kind of adjust to the life in university, and just helping them to organize their work, particularly in first year.
I think it's not you're not in a vacuum when you come in as a student. You are massively supported, and I can say that as well in my own role. The idea is it's a big transition for students coming from second level into university, and we're here to help with that, both on the academic side and on the administrative side for sure. Another attendee asks, is there a limit on the number of students entering into the program? The approximate number of places in the intake every year is around 35, I believe, approximately. There's not, I suppose, it can vary in terms of demand, but the likelihood is that's the kind of the average number that we intake every year. That won't necessarily be increasing to 40, 45, 50 randomly in a given year, just to say that. So the average would be around 35 each year for the person that asked that question. There's another one in. what happens to your second subject after first year? So Dan, you referenced in your
So
presentation the
it
art
formally
subject.
drops. So you drop your second subject in second year. However, every student in the university is entitled to do extra credits. All right. So you do 60 credits. You're entitled to do a maximum of an extra 10 credits. And we do have some students who keep on that other discipline or another subject that they might be interested in. So we've got a couple this year doing something on entrepreneurship, and we have a couple doing stuff on psychology. We have one female student who's continued her Chinese studies from first year. So, and we will look at that. Ella and myself review that, and we make sure that it doesn't have a detrimental impact on the 60 credits that you must do. But we do encourage it if people want to do it. But formally, you drop your second subject at the end of first year.
That's great. Thanks very much, Dan. And then another student asked, how do you select students? So selection for the CAO route is points alone, and the entry requirements. So for students coming through the CAO, which I imagine the majority of attendees here would be doing, that's a merit-based application based on your 6 best subjects that you can get for points. The entry requirements on the program are an ordinary 6 or a H7 in maths, an ordinary 6 or a H7 in a third language, and English and Irish, unless you're exempt from Irish. And you can also receive an exemption from the third language requirement because it's a minimum entry requirement. And then once you've satisfied those criteria, then you're eligible for a place as long as you receive the minimum points for entry in the given year, which, as you mentioned, Dan, can vary. So based on supply and demand.